Hi, my name is Janine Miller, and you are watching Pieces of Victory. Today we have on our show a survivor of a lockdown reform school called the Circle of Hope Girls Ranch. Karli Jean is a survivor of child abuse that took place inside this residential program. She is here today to tell her story of what went on behind closed doors. She is brave enough to go into graphic detail of her story, and I urge parents to make sure that their children are not watching this. This is for 18 years old and older. So thank you. I appreciate it. Please welcome to the show, Karli Jean. Hi, Karli. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for coming on the show, Pieces of Victory, and to share your story of what is going on behind closed doors today. And I'm going to emphasize today because this lockdown facility is still open and they're still abusing children, girls in this home. Do you want to start from the beginning of what is going on at the Circle of Hope Girls Ranch located in Missouri?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was sent there in 2015. I want to say it was like May 2015. I came from another program. They decided they didn't want to keep me because I was having anxiety and panic attacks, and I started hating myself. So I ended up getting sent to Circle of Hope.
I'm sorry, the program that you were into prior to the Circle of Hope, were they abusive as well?
No, I will to this day still speak highly of them. They are great people. They more had like a family setting where it was like, and more of like a structured schedule. Like they do school. You had free time. You could watch TV, watch movies. We had ice cream nights. Just like all kinds of awesome stuff.
You had freedom of speech, and it was completely different. It was like night and day.
Yeah. So when I ended up leaving that program, I left with one of my friends that I had made at that school because we were kind of getting in trouble together. So we got to Circle of Hope, and I remember walking in, and I just saw all the girls' faces. They looked so miserable, and they are only allowed to wear long skirts and jumpers and t-shirts, and they only got 2 outfits to wear a week. Like, even though they're working all day long, 2 outfits a week. And I remember, like, as soon as I walked in the door, like, the first thing I smelled was sour milk. Like, it just hit me in the face. I was like, this place is disgusting. It's dirty. Like, just so gross.
Oh, no.
So, basically, when I first got there, I got put into a neon shirt because they were accusing me of being, like, run risk. And I wasn't run risk. I had no intentions of running at all. And so, basically, all we had to do for the first 30 days, you're not allowed to talk to your parents, and you're not allowed to do schoolwork. So we literally stood in a line, all the new people, and shook butter all day long because they got milk from the Amish. So we'd stand there and just shake butter all day.
So for 30 days, you weren't allowed a phone call. You weren't allowed to visit.
Mm-hmm.
You had no rights whatsoever and no communication.
Nope, none.
So would you say that was enough to brainwash?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I asked if I could talk to my parents, and they pretty much said, no, you don't deserve it right now. You have to earn that. And I was like, okay. Like, I'm pretty sure my parents want to know how I'm doing.
Right. And no child deserves to be abused in these places. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you killed someone, if you committed a crime. It doesn't matter. You do not abuse children. Mm-hmm. And you didn't even have a misdemeanor on you. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I was never, ever in trouble with the law. Never.
Wow. Okay, so let's carry on. No rights. If you were in minimum security prison, you would at least had a phone call.
Yeah.
So you're almost better off having a criminal record. I'm not encouraging anyone to have a criminal record, but I know what goes on behind closed doors in these places because I'm a survivor myself, and I would have preferred to have had repercussions of juvenile hall. You hear any screaming, flooring?
So there was lots of screaming all the time. Girls would be given push-ups for breaking the slightest quote-unquote rule. Like, say they made friends with someone, or they were looking at them, or if they didn't say yes ma'am or yes sir correctly, then they would get push-ups and get put in push-up position for hours and hours. And they'd be screaming in pain, and we'd get workouts, and we'd just literally have to like either run in place or do like jump squats or just terrible, like horrible workouts for hours. And they just and they'd have us run laps. They would restrain girls to the point where they would literally like almost pass out because the pain was, yeah. Another thing was they had a quiet room. So this was a room that girls got put in if they were doing something like wrong in their eyes, which most of the stuff was just stupid anyways. This room had no windows. It was pitch black inside. They were not allowed to sit down. Like, they would come and check on them to make sure they weren't sitting down. And they weren't allowed to go to the bathroom. You'd literally open that door, and it, like, the smell of urine would just hit you in the face.
So they were urinating and having bowel movements inside. This is a room of isolation, correct?
Yes.
So it's a room of isolation. You can't go to the bathroom whenever you want. I mean, this is worse than minimum and maximum security prison.
Yeah, it's literally.
At least you have, you can go to the bathroom. You have the privilege to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's
well, even when the girls, even when the girls did go to the bathroom, we didn't have doors on the bathrooms. So there'd be someone standing over you, watching you go to the bathroom. Make sure you wouldn't.
No privacy whatsoever.
Exactly. And get this, they only gave you 4 sheets of toilet paper.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah.
What if you were sick or something and you had
technically you could ask for 4 more, but then they'd get mad at you if you asked for too much.
Did you get a punishment for asking for too much, like a demerit?
Push-ups, yeah. Or they'd bring you to brother's house.
That's punishment for a human bodily function.
Yeah.
And that gets me upset. That really gets me upset. You don't punish kids for that.
Exactly.
So it was beyond militant. It was beyond structure. It was abusive.
Yep.
And, it's one thing to be structured in a program, and now you're just crossing the line.
Exactly. Yeah. And then another thing having to do with the bathrooms, they ended up getting like a porta potty outside because they didn't want girls coming in from work in the air conditioning in 104-degree weather. And they wouldn't empty it when they were supposed to. Like, they wouldn't have people come out and empty it. And literally there were times you would go in there and there were like maggots at the bottom, and they'd still make girls go.
Wow. And this was a porta potty when you were forced labor outside. Is that correct? I just wanted to paint a picture for the audience. So here you are, you're forced to do labor. This wasn't volunteering. And even when they asked to volunteer, the conditions are horrible. So, but basically I would say 99% of the time is mandatory. It's either you work and do hard labor or you're punished. There's
Yep. You get restrained, or you get your face shoved in the gravel, or
oh my God, I'm sorry, shoved in the gravel?
Yeah, they would literally grab girls by the back of the neck and shove their face into the ground.
Oh my God.
It's horrible. I saw horrible things when I was there. Horrible.
Awful. And so would they leave scrapes on their face from being shoved into the ground?
Yeah, they'd get bruises and everything. And then at night we would take injuries And so they'd have to say like, oh, bad behavior, something on the injury. It was just the dumbest stuff I've ever heard in my life. Like, it's so...
Okay, so here they are abusing you, and now they're doing reports, internal reports on injuries?
Yeah, to cover them, to make them look good, like it wasn't their fault.
Oh my God, wait a second. So did they have to fill out a form? So let's say, and he's not a preacher, correct? He's the CEO of the program. Okay, I'm not even going to mention his name. We'll just call him a monster. Okay, so this monster that's running the program shoves me into the ground, makes me fill out a report that I had this injury, that it was an accident, and then I had to sign it.
You're right.
You have got to be kidding me. That's awful.
I had gotten in trouble one time. I don't remember the exact situation, but they made me take a cold shower for like 3 nights in a row. And they'd have someone, like, full blast, freezing cold water. They'd have someone stand above, watching over the shower curtain to make sure you didn't move out of the water. And if you moved, they would point the shower head on top of you. And by the time you got out, you were purple.
Oh my God, that's awful. Mm-hmm. So it's just torture, one torture after another in this place.
Yeah.
Say I witnessed someone being forced to eat their own vomit, because I know that went on at your school too. Mm-hmm. What if I finally had the guts to say something? What would they do?
Oh, they would. So they'd bust you. They call it busting. So basically, because of the shirt colors, they'd say, okay, well, you're a pink shirt. Now you're going to go to a black shirt because you're lying, or you don't agree with what we're doing. So we're going to demote you and tell your parents that you're doing terrible.
Oh my God, that's awful. So if I were demoted and they would call my parents and say I was being rebellious, is it a possibility that the parents may keep me in there until I'm 18 years old?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because the parents, we weren't allowed to talk to our parents about anything. If we had a problem with them, we, like, on our phone calls, they'd monitor it. So you weren't allowed to say anything, like how you were feeling, what the actual situation was.
Let's say you had a family issue and you're on the phone with them. Could you work it out with them on the phone?
No.
No. Because everything is your fault. Everything is the child's fault. It's not a parent. It's not a whole family dynamic. It's strictly you.
Yep. Exactly.
And how is that helping family issues?
Yeah.
It's fake. It's untrue. It's being phony about a phony relationship when you can't speak the truth about what the root of the problem is.
I remember I had gotten in trouble because I got an 80% on my test in school. Okay, get this. 80%, if you are in normal school, 80% is considered a B. Right?
Above average.
And they got mad at me because I got an 80, and in their school, that's barely passing.
Wow.
And below an 80% is failing.
Let me ask you a question, speaking of which. They were so adamant about their 80%. When you got out of school, were you able to transfer all those credits?
No, I didn't.
No.
So I got there.
Oh my God.
I came from the other school. I was a sophomore in high school. I had 0 credits when I got to that school. They took all my credits away. I don't know how that's even legal. They took all my credits. They put me in, like, 2nd grade math. And what? So the entire time I was there, I didn't get 1 single credit.
Oh no, that's awful. And so were you doing basic too?
I was, yeah.
Okay, let me remind everyone that this is a Lester Roloff. Lester Roloff is the mastermind behind the cults, and he started the Rebecca Home for Girls in 1968. And it's Rebecca Hunter, Christian Academy, New Bethany, Hexabah House, and once again, the Circle of Hope Girls. And it's despicable because it's the same type of treatment. And I'm not going to say that there aren't any other programs out there that are abusing children. There's 100,000 plus schools out there that are abusing our children today. But right now, I'm just emphasizing that this is a lesser roll-off school.
Wow.
Did you know about that? I'm sorry.
I didn't.
Okay, so homework. I'll send you some links of Lester Roll-Off. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. It's amazing what you don't know while you're prior to this place and while you're in this place. I had no idea what denomination it was. Did you not? It's an independent fundamental Baptist, correct? Independent fundamental Baptist, and they're all linked to Lester Roll-Off. I had no idea what independent fundamental Baptist was until I got out.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something that's really a hard topic to talk about. Let's talk about how did you end up getting brutally raped in this place? How did that start?
So I had became his secretary. So I worked in the office. I was down there all the time. I cleaned the office, did filing. Technically, they had a rule for girls. If you're down the hall, there's supposed to be some other people with you, technically, so they can't get accused of this. That wasn't the case with me because I was the secretary. So I just went down there to do whatever I needed to do. So there was one day, because I got promoted to staff. So I got so excited that I got promoted. And so I asked him, I was like, can I give you a hug? Like, I'm so excited right now. And he was like, well, no, because the girls are going to twist it on me that I'm being weird with you about it. And so I was like, okay, it's not a big deal. And so
And there really wasn't any physical contact with any of the staff, including the women. Is that correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
It was far from being nurturing. But you were just so excited about the position. How long have you been in the school at this point?
I want to say, well, I first got promoted to like a leadership position within 3 months. And then I got promoted to staff within 5. So I had one day I had gone out to like hang laundry because we had laundry lines. And so he came outside because there was like a back door where the offices were and the line was like right there. He came outside and he was like, why are you looking at me like that?
What?
And I was like, yeah. I was like, what are you talking about? First of all. And my initial response was, I don't know. Like, why are you asking me that? And he's like, well, you know, if you come down the hall, I can give you a hug now because the girls are out on work crew. And so I was like, okay, like, yeah. And so, like, deep down, I knew, like, I felt it in my gut. I was like, this is not just
right.
Yeah, this is not just a friendly hug. Like, this is easy. And so I went down there and I gave him a hug or whatever, and it was fine. And then every night he started hugging me before he left because their house was across the street. And so every single hug, it got worse and worse. He started touching me. He would make comments to me and say, push up against me, or like, you need to hug me like this, not like that. Just like super like sexual. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to like say something and get in trouble.
Right. And not only that, but you know, you're in this place too that you started with the hug and it was so innocent, and it was only because all of you girls in that place aren't getting any kind of love or nurturing at all whatsoever. You're being told that you're made to feel like you're untouchable. Every day is a punishment. There is
Mhm.
nothing no one is hugging anyone in this place. No one is respected in this place. And
Right.
you felt proud of an accomplishment that you worked for.
Mhm.
And you
Yeah.
just wanted to be acknowledged. That was
Mhm.
it. That was it. It was innocent. And then
Mhm.
what happened? He just started testing the water.
Yeah, and so one day we were actually doing school for once, which that's shocking because we never did school. I went up and I scored one of my paces, and he like came up to me and he was like, "You know, you can talk to me about anything, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, you can come down to my office when you're ready."
Oh
And
my God.
I was like, okay. And then another thing that happened, this is actually before the Paces thing. I was in the laundry room and I was switching the laundry. So I was taking the stuff out of the washer, like bending over the washer. And he like walks by and he goes, "You should bend over like that again."
Oh my God.
My heart sank. Like I was like, this is disgusting. I know what he's doing. He says he's not like this. Like this is what it is. So once he told me that I could talk to him about anything, I ended up going down the hall and I said something. I was like, "I feel like you're being sexual towards me." And he looked at me and goes, "No, why would you think that? I'd never do that."
Oh my
He's
God.
like, he goes, "You can't work in the office if you're gonna accuse me of that."
Oh my God.
And then so it kind of stopped, and then he randomly like got, because we had a ranger, so it was kind of like a, do you know what a ranger is? It's like kind of like a golf cart type looking
Okay.
thing, but it's for like farming.
Okay.
He took the ranger key and he hid it. He hid it only to get me to go outside with him and search the horse pen so he could touch
Oh
me.
no.
And then I found out that he hid it under his truck the entire time.
Oh my God.
He literally walked over to his truck and was like, "Oh, it's right here, by the way."
What a jerk. And let me just paint another picture for the audience. I know he wasn't calling himself a priest, but he had Bible studies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in some of those Bible studies, was he trying to make women out to be the temptress? And it's how you dress, how you act, the way you smell, or anything. It was almost like if you're raped, you weren't raped. You were the temptress. You brought it on yourself. And then pulling out scripture from the Bible. Did he do that?
Yeah, he did. So he would tell us, you know, well, if you get out and you go wear pants, you're worldly, so you're going to go to hell. Or if you don't listen to Baptist music, you're going to go to hell. Or just because your parents wear pants doesn't mean you can, because they're probably going to just ridiculous things. And it's like, where in the Bible does it specifically say you cannot wear pants as a female?
Right.
It doesn't say anywhere in the Bible.
It doesn't.
So it's just crazy.
They're taking Deuteronomy and twisting it.
Mhm.
Or at least they use Deuteronomy in the school that I was locked in.
Mhm.
But it's very vague. It's not specific. It doesn't say pants. So I almost feel like it's a license for these people to rape little girls, and it's despicable. So
Yeah.
you've got this playing in your head. The woman is a temptress, and if anything ever happens, it's an automatic. It's your fault. And 9 times out of 10, would you say that most of those women who have been sexually abused by this man or brutally raped won't report it because they feel like it's their fault?
Mhm.
It's almost like he's prepping them.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Prepping them to feel this way so he doesn't have the repercussion.
Mhm. I remember like one of the nights that he was like hugging me. He pretty much told me, "You better get out of here, or else my is gonna say hi." And
Oh
I was
God.
like, I was like, "Hey, I'm going. Like, I'm going." um, and so,
You didn't want to be there in the first place.
no, I didn't. And it was honestly like it was really hard for me because I'm supposed to be here to get help. My parents are dumping money every month thinking that I'm getting help when I'm not.
Right.
And
Far
all
from
these
it.
girls, yeah, all these girls don't have a voice at all when they're in these places. And it's just really hard. And that's what's like motivating me to speak out about it is because they need to get shut down and they need to get what's coming to them. They need to repay. But
Whether or not you went along with it or didn't go along with it, it doesn't matter. That is still rape. So,
mhm,
were you brutally raped by him? Was it statutory rape?
mhm. he he made threats against me. He would say like, "You tell anyone, I'm going to tell you you're a liar." He would push me up against the wall and he would literally like shove his up and be like, "You're mine. Do you understand me?"
Oh my
And
God.
those are threats to me because I'm not here to be doing this with a 68-year-old man.
Oh my God. That's awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Uh,
It's
so,
despicable.
mhm,
And I'm surprised. I know in my camp there were monitors all around, so it could pick up on what we were saying in the dorms. I take it there wasn't any surveillance in the office or
mhm.
monitor, otherwise he wouldn't have done that.
No, there were, which there's so much to this story. I'll get more into the situation itself, but they had cameras upstairs. In one of the incidents, he had actually taken me upstairs to do like a room check to make sure the rooms were clean. And it was literally like every single room he'd be doing stuff to me. And then he'd move to the next room, the next room, and the next room. And I told DSHS, I said, "Here's the date, here's the time, go find it. I'm done. Like, I want him to get caught so bad." And they told me they could not pull it up because it deletes after 30 days or something like that.
What?
hmm And I'm sorry, they set it up that way. They set it up that
Wow. That's awful.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Mhm.
So now it's just your word against his.
Exactly, yeah.
But there are so many survivors coming forth that have similar stories to yours. Because if he could do it to you, he's doing it for a lot more girls. And how many do you know that's happened to you? No names. You don't
Mhm.
say any names. But would you say 3, 4?
I would say at least 4.
Did they
Um,
report it to the cops?
I think so. Usually, the girls will speak up about it, um, or they'll call like, when they get out, they'll call the police about it, and then they do, like, a huge, like, CPS investigation, or, I remember one time the FBI got involved when we were there. So they have spoke up about
You
it.
would think with all the visits from CPS and FBI, I don't know how many times going through this place, that it
Mhm.
would be closed.
Yeah.
It's a
Mhm.
telltale sign that something is not right.
Yeah. But they also, like, when girls would say something, and CPS would come out, they'd basically pick girls to talk to CPS that they knew like weren't gonna say anything, like
Sure.
girls who have privileges or things like that.
Very strategic about what they're doing in that place.
Mhm.
It's very
Very.
calculating. It's very,
Mhm.
especially when they're having girls sign incident
More
reports.
in depth about. Sorry, it's a huge thing for me, but I remember one night the other secretary girl who kind of worked down in the office was with me. She was gone at home for a visit because she was considered staff too, so she had that privilege to go home. Um, she wasn't there, and then the wife, she went and picked up another girl from the airport who was coming back to visit because she was wondering if she wanted to come back to work as staff. And so it was me and a few of the higher shirts watching the girls that night. So I had just gotten out of my shower, and he had been down in the office waiting for Emily to come back to see the place. And he called me down. He on the intercom. He goes, "Karli, bring me some tea." And so I went down in the kitchen. I got him his glass of tea, brought it back down the hall, went in the office, and he had asked me to like massage his head because he gets headaches. He had asked me that before, and I said no. And he asked me again, and I was like, "Why are you asking me again? I already told you no once."
Right.
Then at that point, I was just like, "Whatever. I'm not about to get in trouble because I didn't do what you said when I'm uncomfortable about it."
I mean, you were given orders all the time in this place. You just had to follow the orders.
Yeah, it was crazy.
You were slaves. The girls were running the place. They were doing all the laundry. They were doing the cooking. They were doing the cleaning. They were doing the yard work. And apparently rape. He was taking advantage of the girls in that home and torturing them. It's beyond take advantage. He's raping girls in this camp. So have you witnessed girls that were there that stayed past their 18? Because usually when girls are 18 years old, they can leave this place, right? When they're legally of age. Have you ever witnessed anybody who was there past 18?
I did, yeah. So there's one girl in particular. Her name is Rachel Kelso. She is there because her parents signed over guardianship to the householders. Because basically her parents couldn't handle her because she has a disability. That's the long story short. Yeah. And so I used to talk to Rachel when I was there, even though we weren't supposed to. And she used to open up to me. Me and her were pretty close. And she would always tell me, "Karli, I don't understand why they treat me like this. Why am I made to be the maid? Why do I have to sit and scrub floors all day? Why do they give me push-ups and restrain me for no reason when the girls are tattling on me?"
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, I literally, we stayed up, all night one night just talking about, stories from home, and it just made me so sad. It was horrible, but she is the sweetest person ever, and she deserves the world.
In a torture camp. And you were there for a duration of 2 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
And here's this poor girl, and I call her a girl. She's special needs. She's 30 what? 31? 30?
I think either 30 or 31.
She's around 30, 31. But she's going to be in there for the rest of her life. And America just turns a blind eye. First of all, these girls shouldn't be abused in this place. For one thing, the whole place needs to be closed down. And now we have a special needs girl that's going to be locked in there for life. She didn't commit a crime, do anything wrong. And 9 times out of 10, these girls that are in these places haven't committed a crime, and yet they're treated as an untouchable. That whores and home wreckers, and they don't belong in society, and that God's looking down at them. And when someone rapes girls in there, who's going to believe these girls? Because they're pegged as criminals. I remember being pegged as a criminal. I thought that monster in my program made me feel like I was a criminal and I never committed a crime. I felt like a druggie and I never did a drug. I felt like an alcoholic. It's just sad that someone in power like that will take advantage.
It's really sad, and that's why we're so big on supporting Rachel. It's not fair at all. She should be in a place that's gonna love her, a family that's gonna help her through her disabilities, not a place that's gonna just keep dragging her down and make her feel worthless. So
It's really sad. And please hashtag expose COH and hashtag where is Rachel Kelso. And I'll have the hashtags at the bottom of this YouTube video. Can you tell me a little bit about, were you still in that position? Did you take it away from you because maybe you had enough, or you just kept on going along with it? Was it multiple times that he was raping you? Or?
It went on with me, it went on for 6 months before I said anything.
And you didn't want to say anything because?
I was scared that my family wasn't going to believe me, or I'd get sent to some crazy house because I'm quote unquote accusing him of that.
If you didn't do exactly what he wanted, there were some serious repercussions. If your life was a living hell now, and I'm speaking of the present time when you were being raped, it would have been 10 times. And benefits that came with it? Meaning, did he treat you special because?
He did, yeah. I got a lot more privileges than the girls. I'd get coffee. I didn't have to go outside on work crew.
So there was a trade. It was a trade. Basically, buying your freedom.
He'd give me soda, and just terrible.
That's awful. Despicable. Well, this man should be in prison. And yet we have this place open and they're still collecting money. So Karli, can you tell me, were you ever forced or put in a position where you had to abuse other girls? Tell me a little bit about that.
So technically they call it a privilege to be over another girl or tell girls what to do. So I was allowed to like give push-ups and things like that. But I did them for legitimate reasons, and instead of petty garbage that most of the girls would get in trouble for. And I still have girls message me and say like they had a lot of respect for me, and I did it right compared to everybody else.
Oh, so in other words, you weren't on a power trip.
No,
you weren't taking your power and running with it.
Because inside I was literally like being eaten alive because I couldn't tell anybody about what I was going through, and it made me open my eyes more. Like, even though I was in a privileged position, I put myself in the girls' shoes, and I was like, all right, what are they feeling? Like, what have they done personally to this person? Like, I tried to view it that way.
And that was smart of you and very compassionate of you to do that. Was there any psychiatrists, psychotherapists on board, medical, any medical attention there, any nurses on board?
No. So technically it was just the owners who would do like meds and things like that. They'd assign like different staff members to give them out. But I remember they just take medicine away from girls, like if they thought they didn't need it. As far as counseling, when you first get in, you sign a contract, and they say every week they'll do counseling, but you'd have to put in like a request basically for counseling. And so there's been times girls would put in a request and they wouldn't get counseling until like 2 months later.
Was it a licensed therapist or?
No, it was them.
It was them?
It was them.
So and most the abusers are oh, you've got to be kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding.
Here they are. They're not even licensed to do that, and they're your abusers. And that's counseling? Don't even get me started. And this place is open today, by the way. Let me keep reiterating through this video. And this is the United States of America, because a lot of times when I tell my story, what country is this in? The U.S. The U.S. And it's shoved underneath the carpet. Why? How much did it cost your parents to send you to this place, Karli?
I think it was around $35,000 a year.
What? What? $35,000 a year? You've got to be kidding me. And we can confirm that too when we get Karli's mom on the line. Why can't we pass a simple federal bill? Why is it that these places are still existing today? Why is it that CPS and has been in there numerous times, and the FBI was inside the compound, and yet still open today? How many reports do you think on rape have been ignored?
A lot.
Exactly. And yet the
too many
open. So let me ask you a question, because you seem so strong-willed. And I almost guess that what the answer is with you. It does. You knew this place was wrong, and you just went along with the program. I bet you weren't even brainwashed when you got out. I bet you went to the cops and reported it. Did you?
I did, yeah.
I don't even think it took a while for you to get off the, I call it the remote control, because we were programmed. So, and I'm using the Stepford wife as an analogy, the Stepford Christian child. You know, normally, you know, we're brainwashed for a certain amount of time, and then after that, then all hell breaks loose. But I think as soon as you walked out the door, you were heading for, you know, to make a report.
Well, CPS, they had came out and interviewed me like right after it happened, but I was in contact with people after that as well. So people actually flew out from Missouri to Idaho when I lived with my parents to interview. So,
and that's how serious this is. If CPS is flying out to pay you a visit to find out what happened, that's serious. That costs money for a flight to fly CPS out there. So there must be something pretty serious going on, you know, if CPS is flying out to go see you. And yet this is still open. I smell a rat. Just doesn't make any sense at all. But none of it does. It doesn't make any sense that there are over 100,000 schools open like this today in the U.S. that are torturing our children. I want to ask you another question. When you got out, CPS, what did your mom say? Did you confide in your mom immediately?
I did, yeah. I think they were the ones to tell me. I think they called my home phone, and they were like, "We got a call from an investigator from CPS, and they want to come interview you." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Give me the phone. I'm gonna call because of course I want to talk. Like, why do they have to ask? Like, they already know." So they ended up flying out like the next week. It was like we were at the police station. We were in like a room, and this was like an hour-and-a-half interview. And months went by. I didn't hear anything. And I tried calling, and I was like, "What's up? What's the status? I haven't heard anything." And they just were like, "Well, we don't really have any evidence, so we can't push this further."
What? But what about girls' stories that when they were there 5 years prior?
Yeah,
what
they
about
don't.
Rachel Kelso? And Rachel is pretty feisty because she opened up to you. I don't think Rachel's going to hold back. It already feels like she's being tortured every day anyway. So what the hell? She's not at the top of the hierarchy plan, right? So she doesn't have anything to lose.
Literally, her only job is to clean. That's it. She cleans all day.
And let me remind the audience, there's nothing wrong with cleaning or working and hard work. But when I volunteered my time for my church, but I had a really nice congregation. This is a ministry that's abusing little girls. Do you honestly think I want to work for a ministry that's abusing little girls? And worse, are you getting paychecks for cleaning, for cooking, for doing the heavy construction work, working out in the field? No?
They say it's technically a school credit, Like if
A
you work in like
full credit.
yeah, but that's
Make
the
any
thing.
sense,
Okay.
because none of that, you couldn't even transfer any of that into a public school.
Yeah.
There goes that theory.
So it's just crazy, and the fact that I went out of there and I had 0 high school credits was mind blowing. 2 years wasted, gone, only to get abused.
Where is our protection? Brings me to the federal bill that we're trying to pass. Another example. If we had the federal bill, which was introduced in 2010 by George Miller and reintroduced by Adam Schiff, now it's dead in the water. If we had this federal bill passed, this place would at least have a chance to shut down.
Right.
Would do their due diligence. This is where I want the government to come in. I want the government to come in. And I understand religious liberty. But again, I can't emphasize this enough. We didn't say you can abuse our children. You know, there's no exception to the rule. I know this is a hard subject to talk about, but you wanted to go a little bit more in detail about what happened with rape. And I think that the more detail that you can give, the better, because you may help someone who might be blaming themselves for it. They may think it's their fault. And if we tell them maybe it might make someone brave enough to report rape. So I encourage you to talk to the audience about what exactly happened, so that another survivor can identify with you.
Yeah. So I had mentioned earlier, like, how I would go down to the office and like massage his head, because he'd get headaches. So the first time he like full on did something sexual with me was when it was the situation where we were waiting for the new staff, or her name's Emily, so we were waiting for her to get back, and he literally like turned around and lifted up my skirt and like started me. I was just standing there and I felt like a deer in the headlights. I was just like, what is happening? Like, I felt like I was gonna pass out. I was like,
and you felt like you couldn't say anything. You couldn't tell him to stop, because if you told him to stop, there were repercussions. Did he put you up against a wall at one point?
Yeah, he shoved me up against the wall, and again shoved her up and was like, "You're mine. Do you understand me?"
He shoves you up against the wall. You have that playing on in your head. You know what he's capable of doing. He floors girls all the time. And pressure points. An ex-Marine too, by the way. Okay, so
technically after that, I had just walked back up the hall, just trying to act normal in front of the girls. The next time it had happened was I was down the hall with him alone, and his wife like hadn't come across the street for some reason. She was over at their house, because sometimes she wouldn't come over at all, and the girls were upstairs cleaning, and so there was like there's the hallway, and then there's like another door that they installed, and then there's the offices. So there's a door that shuts before you get to the office, and they put a lock on the inside where the offices were on the door. So I got down there, he locked the door, and so no girls could get down. It was just me and him down there. And so he took me in his wife's office, brought me around the corner, because there was like the main office, and then you'd go this way, and then there was like the computer and stuff back there behind a wall. He took me back there, put me in, he was sitting in the chair, so he put me on top of him in the chair and tried to like proceed with intercourse. And that didn't work. So he brought me back around, cleared everything off the office table, and put me up on the table and proceeded.
Oh my God, that's awful. So
yeah.
of course you feel like you're a sex slave.
Mm-hmm.
You're his slave.
Mm-hmm.
And you just went along with it, never tried to struggle.
I never said anything because I knew.
You knew what the repercussions were. And
Mm-hmm.
and worse, you're captive in this place. You can't call out. You can't call 911. If you say something and open your mouth, they're going to call you a liar, and then your life is going to be a living hell. We all know what happens when you open your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And then worse, they'll make you sign something.
Yeah. And
it's very calculating.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they're doing. He knew what he was
Definitely.
doing. It's very
He plots for sure. And that happens so many times too. Like different situations, he'd normally like have me like get down and like give him first, which I'll get into that more because I feel like there's a reason behind that. But he would like, we had a brick house, so it's like storage where we keep girls' clothes and things like that. And we kept the freezers over there. So he'd take me where the freezers were, put me up on the freezer, and do it to me in there while he told his wife, we're going to go count inventory in the freezers. That was his excuse to like cover it up. And then we had like another storage room. There were like three or four different buildings on the property, just like storage everywhere. There was another situation where he was like, well, me and Karli are going to go get paper towels. We'll be right back. And I was up on the ladder climbing up, and he just stuck his hands up and just started messing with me. Another part that is really like in detail, he would like make me like, so there was no evidence.
What?
Yeah.
That's all. That is despicable. That is despicable.
It's really hard to talk about.
That's bullshit. He could have put it down the sink.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have to make you do that.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have to make you do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a man that has Bible studies, claims to be a Christian. He called himself an independent fundamental Baptist, and he's raping little girls, and he's running a program today in America called the Circle of Hope Girls Ranch.
It was during Christmas. I was on my period, right? And I was in the office sitting down. I had a heating pad on and everything. And he walked past me and he was like, oh, well, too bad you're on your period because I'd wrap a bow around it and give it to you. Just like sexual comments. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, and then there was another one.
He's treating you like
another video that he was showing me down in the office. You could probably look it up and find it. It's literally couples having sex on a Domino's counter, like at Domino's. And he showed me that video, and he's like, I want to put you up on the counter and do that to you.
So he's showing you porn. How many times do you hear people in the church so against pornography, and yet here he has porn, and he's showing it to a girl in a school, in a Christian school. Because it's supposed to be a Christian school. Independent Fundamental Baptist is supposed to be a denomination of Christianity. That's what it's supposed to be. I mean, they're carrying the flag of Christianity, but they're far from Christian. We all know that.
I decided to speak up because he was embarrassing me in front of all the girls. He stood up in a family circle one day, which was where we would speak out and basically like tell your problems that you had with somebody else. He stood up and he said, well, when Karli goes out there and she decides to tell everybody that I've been touching her and molesting her, that I'm going to just hold this paper up and say she's a liar.
So basically, he's covering his tracks. He's announcing it to everybody in there. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I spoke up. I just couldn't take it anymore. It was
That's a
eating
red
me
flag
alive.
right there. Why are you even opening your mouth about you? First of all, you didn't say anything. I would be so
Yeah.
suspicious. If
Mhm.
I would have been so suspicious at that. Or the
Mhm.
girls in the program.
The last straw was we went on a singing group to a bunch of churches, and like I had to give my testimony and just like bunch of stupid, like it was just dumb. He picked me on purpose to make me feel like garbage.
It's dumb because it's fake. That's why it's dumb. That's why she's saying that. It's dumb because the testimony is BS. It's fake. It's not real.
Mm-hmm.
A testimony of what? That this is the best program in the world?
Yeah. After that, there was like a big dinner that the church put on for us. And so basically I was in charge of making sure the girls didn't take too much food or else they'd get in big trouble. And so the girls ended up taking more food than they wanted them to take. And so we got back and all of the higher shirts, including myself, who's considered staff at this point, gets put on the wall.
Oh my God. And I know what the wall is, but I need you to tell the audience what the wall is.
Mm-hmm. So basically the wall, you can't look off the wall for any reason other than to read your Bible, and you have to stand with your hands behind your back, and if you're not reading your Bible, you have to stare at the wall all day and you can't look away or they'll throw
24
you
hours.
off.
And how long are you put on the wall for? A month?
It just depends on what they say.
It depends on the crime, so to speak. Crime.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was, I want to say the next day, I was on the wall and I started bawling my eyes out.
Oh.
And this girl, Emily, that I mentioned earlier, who was going to come back to work as staff. So she was staff at that point.
Okay.
And she noticed me crying. She's like, "What's wrong, Karli?" And I was like, "I don't want to tell you. I can't tell you." And she was like, "Karli, you can tell me anything." And I was like, "Okay, well, I need to talk to you, like, away from the girls. Sorry."
Oh.
And she like took me in the staircase and she was like, "What?" And I was like, "I don't want to say it." And she's like, "Just tell me." And I was like, "He's doing stuff to me." And she knew. She was like, "You don't have to say it anymore. We're going across the street right now. You're going to tell them what you just told me."
No.
And so we went across the street and it was just him and his wife and Emily and me. And I looked at him and I said, "You are doing stuff to me." And his face turned as white as a sheet. And Emily can testify. I should tell her about you. But she will testify for me that he would not even look at me. Like he literally, the second I said something, he looked away and said, "She can't stay here."
Wow.
And so the wife stood up, called my parents, called DSHS, and my parents were on the phone when I was just bawling my eyes out. I was yelling at him at this point. I was like, "You know you did. You need to stop lying. Like, it's already out." Like, and he wouldn't look at me. He just got up and walked in the other room.
Oh my God. It's amazing, a miracle that they actually are calling your parents at this time to get you out as opposed to all the hell that I was thinking that you were going to have to go through as far as torture, more torture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now, did they actually go through with it? Did they pull you out at this point?
So basically what happened after I spoke up, so there's a little more to the story. Like she had gotten up and she had gotten something out of their room, and it was a little, I want to say it was glass, but it could have been plastic, like a suction thing that he's supposed to use like in order to get aroused. And she was shoving it in my face saying, "He can't do that. That's impossible." And I was like, "It is possible because he'd have me give him before he did anything. So
my God.
So that's why I think he made me do that beforehand." So after that, I basically told her, get out of my face. If you touch me, you're going to jail. And she backed off at that point. And so I went back to the dorm.
And you're referring to his wife at that point. Are you referring to his wife? Huh?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I won't say who she is, but yes, his wife.
Yeah. So I had gotten back to the dorm. They put me on the wall, and I had to write a statement. I wrote a statement in 1 hour.
On the wall, and that in prison. When his wife should be in prison. When all of the staff that witnessed this, that didn't open their mouth and do anything, they should all be in prison for this. Okay, and here you are on the wall.
So I had to write a statement, and I wrote a 6-page statement in 1 hour. 6 pages! How do you make that up? There's no making that up at all. Like, I spilled my guts. And so they made, they put 2 girls on me, so they followed me wherever I went. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere alone. And the next day, the wife picked me to go get milk from the Amish with 2 other girls. I was like, why are you picking me? Like, I don't want to have anything to do with you at this point. And I went to get in the front seat of the car, and she looked at me and she said, why are you sitting there? And I said, because I'm sitting here. And she was like, you're a nobody, get in the back. And I was like, wow.
That's how they treated us. They treated you like an untouchable, like a nobody. And even when you were being raped numerous times, you were a nobody. He treated you like a whore.
After we went and got milk, she took me to Kansas City, which was 2 hours away, and dropped me off at a teen shelter and said, bye.
Wow.
And she had the nerve to ask me for a hug.
What?
Yeah.
You have got to be kidding me.
I looked at her, I'm like,
kidding me.
I was like, no.
Yeah, no.
And so my parents flew me back home like 2 days later.
Did she ever have you in the program?
No, never.
Never. Oh, she's doing that for show. So this teen program gets to see what a wonderful person she is. That is all for show. Give me a break. Okay, so was this teen program okay? What happened next? I'm almost
it was okay. So I don't know if my parents like set it up, like picked a place that they wanted me to go until they could come get me.
Okay.
But basically, just like not kids, but like teenagers who have issues and want to get themselves straightened out, they go here. And they had like free time.
There's free time? Everything was good in this place, or what?
I mean, it wasn't good, but it was better, like way better. So I didn't really talk to anybody because I was going through a lot emotionally because I don't understand how someone can say all this stuff and then act another way, and then when they get confronted, act like nothing's happening at all.
Right.
So
they just don't want to be accountable for what they did. And there's a lot of people on this compound. The Circle of Hope Girls Ranch, located in Missouri. Again, the Circle of Hope Girls Ranch, located in Missouri. So you're in this teen program. What happens next? Do your parents come and get you?
So they actually bought me a plane ticket and flew me back out to Idaho.
Oh, thank God. Thank God.
They told, my mom will say, we knew when the second I told them I was massaging his head, my mom was like, I had a gut feeling.
Right. So she knew what he was doing. He was testing the waters. And he wasn't supposed to do that anyway. He was not allowed to do that in front of everybody else. He was doing that when he was alone with you. The minute he's alone with you, you fly back Do you immediately tell your mom, or CPS calls? What happens next?
So I get home and I'm walking down the ramp to come down to see my parents, and they're holding flowers for me.
Oh.
And they said, "Welcome home. We love you." And so I just I waited a little bit just to soak up the moment. And then the next morning, they had redone my room and bought new furniture and everything and painted it. And the next morning, we were sitting and having coffee. And that's when I told them everything.
Did you tell both of your parents or just your mom?
Mm-hmm. Both of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they were supportive and believed you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome. And, you know, it's important to get therapy, don't get me wrong, but when you have your parents behind you, when you tell them something like this, it means everything. It means everything.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that would be 90% of the healing.
Mm-hmm.
And did you ever receive therapy for it?
No, I've talked to some people, but not like official like counseling.
But you were able to vent. So maybe venting to survivors, venting to your mother, venting to
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Mainly my aunt. I have a really good relationship with my aunt. So I talked to her a lot about it. I still need counseling.
No, it's never too late. And I'll tell you, even if you get counseling and then you feel better, maybe years later, you may want to have a counselor again in your life. You know, to have a therapist means that you're healthy, and they give you tools to cope with the aftermath of what happened on it. And did you have nightmares afterwards? PTSD? What happened?
I for a little bit I was depressed. But I started my life pretty quickly. I got a job within a month at Starbucks.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so I was just working all the time to just take my mind off of stuff and learn how to be an adult because I was 17. Right. So,
and with the support of your family, that really helped too. I mean, you felt like it was a safe haven.
Yeah.
You felt protected.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Now I work in insurance, so
nice.
Yeah, it's a big change. Starbucks insurance.
That's great. And let me just remind the audience, this just recently happened. 3 years ago. Hi, is this Mom?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Janine Miller with Pieces of Victory. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being on the show. And thank you so much for supporting Karli. She told me in the interview how you were supporting her from the get-go, from the minute she told you about what happened at that hellhole.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We had no idea that, those things were going on. We definitely felt bad and totally supported her. And I did have a few bad feelings during our only visit. We did video one time, and there were a couple things, but one thing in particular. And then another thing that she had told us. So yes, I was totally appalled to find out that he was taking advantage of our daughter. Oh. And I mean, we paid $20,000 almost for her to go there, and very disheartening.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
You trust and you think that they're there to help you and to help your daughter and to lead her in the right direction and get her to to just want to be a better person and do the right thing, and then they take advantage like that, and then some of the procedures they had done that Karli told us about were just unacceptable to me, and as soon as she called us and told us what happened, you know, we flew her home as soon as possible. She stayed in a shelter for 2 nights till we could get her air flight taken care of, and then got her home as soon as possible.
Oh.
And I only wish she would have told us sooner, because we would have gotten her home even sooner.
Of course, but she couldn't.
No,
Yeah,
I know.
she couldn't.
He knew the trouble he had on them, and he knew the position he was in, and took advantage of it. Absolutely took advantage of it.
He was
Him and his wife.
so calculating to signing papers and threatening to sign papers if she opened her mouth, and of course she would be put on the lowest shirt of the hierarchy chain, and you know, just made to feel she was an untouchable, whether or not she was at the top of the hierarchy or at the bottom. The way he was treating her was it's despicable.
It is. It is. It's just, you just, you know, it's just hard to believe. It's just really hard to believe. Disheartening for a parent, you know, and makes you feel guilty, because all we were trying to do was, you know, protect her and keep her safe and keep her, you know, wanted her to be safe, and had no idea that was going on.
How did you hear about this program? Was it someone from the church that recommended it?
Actually, my son found it on the internet, and we were in a position to where money was an issue, and so many of the boarding schools are outrageous. I mean, unless you're rich, they're hard to afford. At least for us, we're you know, retired, so we were on a fixed income, and so we basically. And the other thing was, she was going from one boarding school to another, because the boarding school that she was at, which was Parental, which was an awesome program, and Karli did really good there, and they were great people. They definitely were ministering and
she's giving it a thumbs up.
Yes, absolutely. It was a wonderful program and wonderful people, and they legitimately were in it to help the girls and to minister to them, and they ran it like home. They kept it in a home atmosphere, and there was none of this putting them in rooms and keeping them there for 3 and 4 days and making them go to the restroom with no doors on. I mean, I was so upset when I heard, when we came for our visit, and I found out that was going on. And it was a home setting. It was in a home, and they kept it very comfortable, and you know, they really were just trying to minister to the girls and give them God and give them the right, you know, tried to get them in the right direction and on the right road. So we basically, my son found Circle of Hope on the internet, and it was close to where Karli was at Parent Hope, as far as because we couldn't afford to fly back out and then take her. So we were trying to find something where the people that the next boarding school that she went to, they could drive and get her if they were willing. And so that's what we did. Logistically, it worked out really well, and financially, it was one of the more affordable schools. It was a little less than Parent Hope. Parent Hope was a little higher. We were paying a little bit more for Parent Hope, but this was just right in the ballpark, and we knew we could afford it. So,
and I'm sure when they advertise this, you know, it's like when you are shopping for a hotel. You look online, you're looking at how beautiful it is, but then when you get there, it's nothing as if you that you imagined. It may be a dump.
Yeah, the pictures were just and the therapy horses, and they made it sound like the girls would get to have therapy horses. And
did you have any therapy horses?
No,
yeah,
never.
I thought.
Never.
yeah, the grounds looked really pretty, and just everything was different on the internet.
Right.
And when we got there, I was not so happy about the looks of it, but of course, I didn't want Karli to read into that because this is where she was living, and it was hard for me just as a parent to have her anywhere. I wanted her at home. So.
Right. And you were just blinded by what they are feeding you. They're feeding you information, and the kids are feeding you information. No one is screaming. No one is saying, please take me out, because they couldn't open their mouths.
Right.
And parents are deceived by these places. And by the way, you're the first parent on my show, so it's really healing for me. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a survivor of a lockdown reform school, and I really don't talk to the parents. And it is nice to have you on the show, and it is cathartic for me to have, a parent that cares about, her child, and to support us like this. It really, I'm sorry, now I'm going to cry. It really means a lot to me.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you. You're welcome. Gosh, I just am so upset with the injustices, and as a parent, that didn't even cross my mind. You're in such desperation because you're trying to get your child you want to save their life, and you want them to just be better people, and you've lost some of the control you had at home, and so your next choice is to do that. I mean, your last resort is to do that, and it was our last resort, but we knew to keep Karli safe and to have her stay alive, and to have her possibly, change and see that she needed to try to have a better outlook and make better choices. We just felt like we didn't have a choice. So I'm very grateful that you're having me on the show, and that I'm able to, speak out and speak my mind, and let people know that this school has got to get shut down one way or another. It's got to get shut down. He cannot get away with what he's doing to these girls. It's just so unjust. It's so wrong and so immoral, and just it just has to be stopped one way or another.
And do you mind if I just reiterate for the audience that you are a Christian? You are a Christian woman. And I think it's horrifying that there is someone who is supposed to be a leader of God. And he wasn't necessarily a pastor, but he owned this program. But he was talking about the word, and he was using the Bible to manipulate girls and the way he wanted to, and to make them feel like a whore and a homewrecker, and you name it, he did it. It's despicable. That is not what Christianity is supposed to be. And this isn't an attack on Christianity. This is an attack on a monster who's using Christianity as a crutch to get away with rape.
Absolutely. And when we did our visit, we happened to go over. We went on a weekend where we were able to go to church with the girls, because he takes them to the Southern Baptist Church close by the school, and he actually preaches and gets up there and talks, and then he spends the whole day there at the church. They go twice a day, I think, to the church, and then during the day they go back into this hall until the evening service, and then he has them doing homework in there. And that was one moment. We were in there while the girls were doing homework, and that was one moment that I had these pangs in my stomach. Like, he got up it was at the end of the homework time, ready to go to the night service. He stood up and he made 3 or 4 of the girls, I can't remember how many, got his jacket for him, and he stood there, and they put it on him, and they were fixing his collar. He was telling them to fix his collar and straighten this out and straighten that out. it just rubbed me the wrong way and
It's
gave
degrading.
me a horrible feeling inside, like they have no business doing that for you, and you have no business asking them to do that.
Absolutely.
They're not your slaves. They're not supposed to be dressing you. And then when Karli told me that he started asking him to rub his head, just about fell over when it was a visit on the phone, because we were allowed to call once a week, and she told me that he had asked her to rub his head, and I didn't say anything to her, but inside I just was like cringing and thinking, how dare him? Why would he be asking her to rub his head?
And what those conversations being listened to? There was somebody on the outside recording. They were recording them. You couldn't say anything. She couldn't go any further. She was lucky she was able to tell you that.
Yeah, no, they were listening, and they were standing there, and she read all her letters to us. They had total control over everything,
Did you notice any letters blocked out, scratched out, marked out? Or no?
I don't recall any.
I'm just curious.
I don't recall. It's been quite a while, and I don't recall that. Because they would reread them, and I think Karli said they would ask her to rewrite them or throw them away and have her rewrite them if there was anything in it that they didn't approve of or didn't like.
Sure. Even if you had the slightest clue of something that was going on in there, if they caught that, they would make what you think is a living hell 10 times worse.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's just, and at the moment when you have those pains, and I do feel guilty that I didn't act on those, but there's so much emotion going on inside of you when your daughter is away and in a place like that, and you're just dealing with the turmoil of that alone. And
right.
I just, I kept or giving them the benefit of the doubt, or just thinking,
right.
I don't know. I didn't act on it, and I wish we would have. And then when we got the call, I was just devastated.
You just knew. You just knew at that point.
Yeah.
And it just confirmed what you already had in your head. And during that time where you felt that way, you were probably thinking that, well, maybe I'm just being too paranoid about it. Maybe I'm just being a worried mom. So there was a lot of conflicting feelings going on. And I get that you feel guilty. You were deceived, though. You were deceived by this program. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. You didn't know. The girls couldn't say anything. And what is advertised is far from what is going on in these places. I think, and this is my personal opinion, if you have a 1% chance that this could happen to your child, why take that risk? And as a parent, what could you tell the parent if they're contemplating sending their child away from home? What do you suggest?
I would definitely say to spend some time, if there is time. If there is time, that's the problem, is that when you're in the midst of the turmoil with the child, it's like you're just so desperate to find a place that can handle what you're not able to handle. And so, but if there's time to truly investigate it, to go spend time, a week, sitting in on the program, seeing what's going on day to day, seeing, all the structure of it, and what the activities. And Parent Hope, the first one she was at, and Karli loved. She to this day she said she didn't love it, but and ended up loving it as far as comparing it to where she was at Circle.
Sure.
Hope, she said she wished she would have stayed at Parent Hope, because it was Debbie and Tom really were there and genuinely loved them. They really did. It was a ministry they were in, and they were good people, and they weren't They weren't doing anything, that was not, healthy for the girls, or not mentally right for the girls. And they truly were there for the mission of helping the girls and getting them on the right track, and having them make good choices according, for God, and just trying to make them want to have a better life later on when they leave there. And so they were legitimate, and they were good. And I think the main thing is to actually go to the place, sit in on what's going on for a week, and really, really investigate it and check it out really good.
Were you allowed to drop in at any given time?
No.
Okay, that's a red flag, parents. If you can't drop in on a facility at any given time, that's a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
And were you apart from her for, 3 months? When was the first visit? Was it a month? 3 months?
They had to earn their visits, so I can't even remember. I think it was, once she got into a certain colored shirt, they all had different shirt colors on, and each one was promotion. And she got a shirt. I think we were able to come and see her.
So they could restrict parents from coming for months, for 6 months, depending on how the child was acting according to them. Which, what, for getting a pencil? What, for looking at a girl because you have your head up and you're not staring at someone, you're just keeping your head up. And what, you want us to have our heads down because we're nothing? That's basically what they were doing to us in these programs. And
then,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. And then with her schooling, they told us they were going to keep her on track with school. They failed miserably with school. They weren't having them do school. They were mostly having them do work and treating them like slaves instead of all the schoolwork that they were supposed to be doing with them during the day. And then, then they blamed Karli for being behind when
That's
it was
awful.
really that they weren't giving her the amount of time needed. They weren't putting the hours into school each day.
Right.
Whereas Parent Hope, the first one she was at, that was the majority of their day, was doing their homeschooling. Mm-hmm. That's the way they put it, portrayed it to be at Circle of Hope, that they were going to continue their education and they were going to continue. Karli ended up being so far behind when she left there, and you should have never been. I mean, they have more time there in the day to keep up with their schooling, and then they blamed her for that.
That's awful. And then 20,000. Let me remind the audience: 20,000 you paid for the year. 25.
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
20.
20. I think it's 20. It was $1,500 a month.
That's outlandish. And you could have put her in a private Christian school, probably for less, and then had a better education. And these schools are advertised as the best education, as prestigious. They're not prestigious. And then they have the kids working, running the place, and abusing other kids. And supervising other children. It's not our jobs to supervise children.
No.
It's your job. You're being paid $20,000 a year.
Right.
Earn your keep.
They asked us for, during the course of the time Karli was there, he wrote letters and said that he was going to replace the flagpoles, and he asked each family for an extra $100. And those never got replaced. I remember when we came for our visit, they weren't replaced. He never really did what he said he was going to do with the money. So from all those parents, he got an extra $100.
Wow.
And, never did replace the flagpoles like he said he was going to.
Didn't you say shortly after, Karli, he bought a vehicle?
Yeah.
What happened? He bought a vehicle.
He got a 20, I think it was a 2017, no, it was like a 2016 Ram truck, like the big ones.
And this was in the year of what, 2016, 2017?
It was I want to say 2016.
Okay, so he bought a brand new vehicle.
Yeah.
With grant money.
Yep.
And according to Amanda, which is his daughter, they are profiting $400,000. It's $400,000
Wow, a year.
a year.
Wow.
$400,000 a year, and then I'm not sure. I'm not sure overall in assets. I think $800,000 in assets. I think you need to sue these people.
I know.
You know, first of all, he needs to go to prison.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he needs to go to prison. Where's our justice system? It's despicable. And the FBI was in there. The FBI was in there numerous times, and this is still open. It's unacceptable.
And then the investigators came to Idaho and interviewed Karli and filmed her. I mean, they've gotten so much proof and so much, testimony from different girls and stuff, and nothing seems to have gotten done.
What are they doing with all that evidence? Are they saving it for a rainy day? I mean, I know I'm making fun of it, but what the hell is going on?
I know. I have no idea what is keeping them from trying to push forward with it and subpoena them and get them in court and have them have to answer for themselves and their deeds.
Right. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Right to the audience. If you're staff and you're a nice staff, but you do not do anything to help these kids out, and you witness this, you're accountable.
Yeah, guilty by association. Yes,
exactly. You're accountable because you didn't do anything. You're supposed to report it.
There was their son worked there, and that was another thing that I never really liked. When we went for our visit, the son was there, and I found out that one of the girls that went there was his girlfriend. And I just thought, you have your son working at a girls' camp amongst all these girls, and I just don't think he had any business working there and associating with any of the girls. And he was having a relationship with the one girl there, and I was just thinking that I remember thinking at the moment that this is just crazy. This is not right.
Right.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
In your gut, you just knew. Your intuition.
Yeah.
You can't beat yourself over it because these places are very good at deceiving parents.
Because he had a good spiel with me. He was
sure.
Very military. He said he was in the military, and he knew the right things to say to make you trust him, that he was going to, be a good person to try to give the girls, to educate them and to discipline them and make sure that they thought about their choices and changed their ways, kind of thing. He was very, very good with his words and very good with the spiel that him and said to the parents, assured them and their verbiage and everything. And, plus as a parent, you're just looking for someone that you can trust and that, you're always hoping that, this is going to be the place that changes them,
And the harsh reality is not everything is what it seems. I was naive when I was 16. I had a congregation. I volunteered at my congregation. No one in my congregation ever said anything that's negative about anybody. They didn't say that I was a homewrecker or a whore or just that was never preached from the pulpit. It was like night and day. And I volunteered at my church. I was in the youth group program, and I would attend youth group twice a week. It was nothing like this. And I can't imagine what kind of associations these poor girls have when they get out. it's sad, and he's leading flock astray big time
Yeah.
in their faith,
Yes.
and that's
Yes.
sad.
And that's just blasphemy too, to be preaching and acting like you're there for your faith, and then to be such a phony and liar and just filthy dirty. He's a filthy dirty man. He's going to rot in hell, I believe, if he doesn't change his ways and admit and come forth and admit what he's done,
Right.
And
I don't think I think with someone like that, they don't even acknowledge that most abusers don't know they're abusers. They think that they're doing the right thing and God's work. They're so convinced that what they're doing is God's work. And
they must line up with being a pathological liar then, because they're lying to themselves to convince their minds to think that way.
exactly, exactly.
To think that what they're doing is right and just and godly. That's just so far from reality.
I'm just so thankful that you were able to be there for Karli when she needed you the most, because most parents will not believe their child, will call them a liar. It splits families up after these programs, and it's just irreparable. And I'm just so thankful that you were able to see right through it and have faith in your daughter. So you're an awesome mom.
I totally believe her. I don't believe she's lying at all. I don't believe she's lying at all. I believe that she really experienced it and went through it, and when she talks about it, and she hasn't gone like total. There's a few things that have been detailed, but I think she's tried to spare me some things too, because she knows it upsets me so much. She's also been really thoughtful and caring with that, but it's been eating her up too much. It's been so much of a burden on her shoulders that I don't believe anybody can make those feelings up when somebody's done that to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. And not to mention, she has backup. She has many that have come forth from this place saying the same thing. So, from different time frames. So how can that be? How could it be 5 years ago someone singing the same story? It's very similar. We can't be making this up. Thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything else you would like to say?
Just thank you for sharing these girls' story and for letting them be heard, because it's healing for them and they needed it. And I appreciate so much that you had them on and that you brought this out about it on your show as well. And I'm sorry for whatever you have to go through too in your experience. And again, we're just grateful that you are putting this out and giving these girls a chance to share their story and let people know what goes on. And if it even prevents one girl from having to go through this and experience this, then it's worth it. It's all worth it.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Thank you so much. I'm going to call you Mom. Thank you, Mom, for being on the show.
Sweet.
Thank you, Mom. I'll call you later.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. Thank you. Thank you, Angel.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Went to work a month after experiencing a traumatic ordeal, and instead of crawling into a hole, you started working and you put yourself out there. I mean, Starbucks, you're meeting people, and you have to do a lot.
I worked there for 3 years, so I recently just got this insurance job. So I've been here about 3 months. So
did you feel like maybe on the outside you were one way, but internally you felt like you needed to adjust back into society?
Like when I got, are you referring to like when I got the job?
When you got the job, when you were out?
Yeah, I was more in the mindset like, okay, I want to live like an adult, not like a little kid anymore and get stomped on. Like,
Wow.
so
Great attitude to have.
yeah, that's
That is
basically
fantastic. Good for you. I feel
yeah.
like you really did overcome it in such a short amount of time. But there might be times where it could get ugly, and those are the times where you want to reach out to a life therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like you have a good head on your shoulders. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
It sounds like you're in a good relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I
So,
don't know what your relationships were like prior to him. Did you have any negative relationships? What were your relationships like before?
well, okay. So the one I'm in now, it's really good. We're going strong. I had my son with somebody else, so that one was the only negative one I've really had. We ended up
was after the program. That was after the program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, we had bought a house together and everything when we found out I was pregnant. And so we just started arguing, and it was just, he was very mentally abusive towards me. And I had already been through so much in the program. I could not take it. I would get so depressed and upset that I just didn't know what to do anymore.
It takes a strong person to tell your story in such detail, and you did it for the greater good. So I thank you so much. I appreciate
you.
Thank
It was
you.
awesome.
Thank you so much, Karli Jean, for being on the show. It was such an honor to have you here, and your mom, and I will call her Mom. She is such a sweetheart, and I so appreciate her spreading the awareness to parents of what happened to her and her story as a parent. That was very important. If you have a 1% chance that this could happen to your child in a lockdown residential program such as boot camps for kids, wilderness camps, conversion therapies, rehabilitation programs, why would you even take that risk? I am Janine Miller, and this is Pieces of Victory.